Yo, yo, yo. How's it going? My name is Corbin Ford. You can follow me at Corbin NBA on Twitter. Let me tell you, I love the National Basketball Association, everything about it. And NBA Today gives me the opportunity to talk about it with y'all. The ins, the outs, NBA from all angles. From current hot topics to flashbacks from the NBA's past to literally everything in between. And yes, that includes NBA Twitter. NBA Today is the show for the hoop junkies on hoop ball. Check it out. NBA Today with Corbin Ford. I look forward to talking with y'all real soon.
The following is a Hoop Ball presentation.
Hello, and welcome to the Hoop Ball DFS Today podcast. I am your host, Micah Padra, joined by my good buddy Aaron Asmus to break down this Thursday, September 3rd card for you guys. We have a nice little 2-game card, and looks like it's going to be 2 games for a little while again over there, Aaron. But we got a new series taking over while the Raptors are going to be trying to claw their way back. But a couple interesting games. But nonetheless, how's your day? How's your week going so far? We're getting closer to Friday, so but how you doing?
Yeah, man, I'm doing pretty good. It's kind of been way almost too exciting of basketball the last couple of days. You know, the 78-80 barn burner in Utah, but that was still somehow really exciting to watch. And man, it almost feels unreal that we're getting such good basketball to watch and play DFS through. And so things are going well.
Yeah, that was an absolute barn burner of a game, and I did fairly well that night. I managed to avoid both Murray and Mitchell at their price tags. I wasn't on the train, so I was getting beat by them most of the night, so I never saw the right feeling to hop on them. So I rode the wave and eventually finally cashed in on that last one. Otherwise, I'd be having some light pockets. Murray and Mitchell were just dropping 50 left and right. It felt like, but
right.
We got 2 games to jump into, man. 2 interesting games. But before we do anything, just a quick shout out to our presenting sponsors over at Manscaped. Go check them out, guys. Go use that promo code HoopBall20, HOOPBALL20. Get a gift for your significant other. Get it for yourself. Nonetheless, they have fantastic products, and you've probably heard the name 1,000 times. It's worth the try. So use this promo code. Get that 20% off plus the free shipping, and it's the perfect opportunity to get a little kit. And then I also want to just give another shout out to our other sponsor, MyBookie. These guys are fantastic over there. Go check them out and use that promo code HoopBall, HOOPBALL. You get a nice little deposit match, and whether it's NBA, we got the playoffs going on, MLB, NFL, only about a week away at this point. So we can have 3 sports to bet on right now, 3 primary sports, all great, and you can go do it over there at MyBookie. Excellent customer service, man. So we'll jump right into this. Toronto Raptors going against the Boston Celtics. This game's coming in at a 215 game total. And somehow Toronto's still being favored, even though the way the series has been playing out. They're being favored by 1 point. So I'll pass it over to you. Yeah, it's a little weird. I think they were the favorite coming in.
Right.
So they're maintaining it. Vegas is maintaining that. This looks like they think Toronto still has it in and is going to pull one out. But why don't we start off with Toronto? We have 3 guys that are priced 7,500 or more on that team. Who's some players on their team that stand out to you, guys that you think you could see locking into your lineups?
Yeah, on Toronto, I think there's kind of 2 distinct cash builds that I've been working through as kind of up to the show, and I think it's kind of building around this little 7K tier in this game with Kemba Walker and Jaylen Brown as well on the other side, and then choosing between that and working through either Kawhi Leonard and Nikola Jokic in the later game. And I think my initial instincts for cash games are maybe to look towards 2 of these guys, and for me, it's going to be Fred VanVleet and Kyle Lowry. I think just their minutes are just so secure in this matchup. Toronto is playing at most 8 guys, and that's only if foul trouble happens. They've both guys have really shot poorly in the series, and partly due to the perimeter defense of Boston. But if these guys are going to keep getting these shot attempts, and Fred VanVleet was 22 field goal attempts the last game. Yeah, I mean, I want that. I want all of that. 43 minutes. It's just too cheap for that kind of role and that kind of minutes security.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on both those guys. Lowry and VanVleet have been two guys that I've been, basically playing all throughout playoffs because of the minute security, the volume shot attempts. We've talked about Siakam kind of struggling with his shot and being a little bit more timid.
Yeah, it's really strange with Pascal. I thought he was kind of during the regular season, he was pretty much their alpha, more or less, and he's really taken a back seat to the guards just the whole playoffs, it seems like.
I think, it's a little different, especially in playoffs. Rotations get tighter. Star defenders, we're gonna see it eventually. If it ends up, they get past Boston and the Clippers end up in the finals. The guys like Kawhi, Paul George, it's tougher to perimeter defenders. They play extra minutes. They step it up a little bit, and now he's the focal point. I mean, during the regular season he was, but during the regular season, you got guys kind of resting, guys missing games here and there, and he was one of those guys kind of that took 4 months off during COVID, but didn't have a basketball hoop and didn't have any time to really shoot either. So if you had to pick between VanVleet or Lowry, you're only playing one of them. I know that it's almost like splitting hairs. I think I prefer Lowry in this matchup, but I wanted to get your take on it.
Yeah, I mean, it really is splitting hairs. Like if I were making 10 tournament teams, and if I wanted to have these guys in, I'd probably have 5 Fred VanVleet, 5 Kyle Lowry, and just kind of split them that way. I think you can play them together. I think that's perfectly viable. Fred VanVleet having some shooting guard eligibility kind of boosts him a little bit because there are some really good other point guards on the slate. There's Kemba on the other side. If you wanted to play Jamal Murray in the later game. I would probably lean Fred VanVleet though. It's the weirdest thing, but it definitely seems like he's kind of taken over as their lead offensive scorer in these competitive games, and he's just absolutely launching from 3 throughout the whole playoffs. So I'll take the little more aggressive Fred VanVleet if I had to choose.
I can't argue with it. And then how about anybody in like the front court? I guess the corpse of Marc Gasol and then Serge Ibaka at 6,100. Any interest in either one of those guys?
I mean, I think Serge has to be in play. You'd probably know a little better than me, but I think Serge has to be in play for tournaments. He's really consistent role, and he's kind of just a massive usage rate coming off the bench. I think his minutes are fairly well capped, but he's still really affordable at 6,100. So I would look to Ibaka in tournaments, and then I'm looking at OG at 5,100 as kind of a staple cash game play. It's kind of feels weird to say that 5,100 is a value play. This under normal circumstances or a normal slate, we'd probably avoid that. But the fact that we can pretty much lock in 35 minutes in a competitive game, and he kind of showed last game that he does have some scoring ability. He was carried by his 4 3-point field goals, but he also didn't have any blocks or steals in that game. So, which is kind of where he usually gets his upside. So kind of my favorite cash game play so far is going to be OG at 5,100.
All right. I mean, he's been very consistent. The 12 shot attempts in that last game. I'd probably expect, that to go down a little bit. I don't think we can expect 12 shot attempts from OG every single game, but he gets it done in so many different ways. And he's going to be tasked chasing Tatum around for most of this game. I mean, that's like pretty much why they love OG. Otherwise, they put Powell in there for his scoring. He is a defensive stopper. So, and then I guess the only other person worth talking about, would be Pascal. I kind of gave my premise on him already. I do think he's in play just simply because of the minutes he's going to be playing. If they're going to keep playing, him a boatload of minutes at power forward, we have other guys we could easily play there, but he's still a pretty fair price tag. So, not one of my priority plays. If I'm playing, 10 lineups, he's probably going to be in 2 of them, maybe 3, but not going overweight on him.
I mean, I don't think anyone's going to be like, because it's a 2-game slate, and that's just kind of the way it goes. But I think Pascal, of kind of these more expensive spends of guys, 7.5K and above, I think he'll be one of the lower owned guys of that tier. which if you're trying to win a tournament, he obviously is going to have the upside with playing 40 plus minutes. So
Absolutely. All right, we'll slide over to the Boston Celtics now. So we got Jason Tatum, 9,200, coming off of a great game, another 30-plus point, actual point game. Kemba at 7-7, Jaylen Brown 7-4. So the three-headed monster. We know these guys are always in play. Does one of those three guys stand out more than the rest of them for you?
yeah, so for tournaments, I think Tatum is going to be my favorite tournament play of the day by a pretty significant margin. I played him the last slate, the last time Boston was on this on DraftKings, and he was pretty much forgotten. He was kind of in the high, I think like 18 to 20% owned, which is kind of amazing for a guy with Tatum's upside. And I think on this slate where you have Kawhi, who's $1,000 more, going to soak up a ton of the ownership. Jokic and Murray are basically the same price. I think they're going to soak up a lot of the ownership in that range. And you have Paul George, who's $1,000 cheaper. And then you kind of have all these, 7.5 to 7.9K guys and that we've already been talking about. It's kind of tough to fit him in. So I think you're just getting access to a really large upside on a guy I think is not going to have very much ownership for a 2-game slate.
I am right there with you. Out of the three of them, he's definitely my favorite option, and it's not just because of the price tag. I think Jaylen Brown getting a little boost, 7,400. It's a very fair price. He can return 40 points and pay that back pretty easily. But I don't feel like there's that much upside. He's been a little bit more timid. Then when it comes down to Jason Tatum, it's all about how aggressive he is.
Right.
When he gets to the free throw line, he puts up monster games. That's simple. When he gets to anywhere between 8 and 12 free throw attempts, he's locking in 50 to 60 DK points on those nights. So I think that they kind of saw that in that last game, and I'm hoping that he stays that aggressive. I mentioned on the last podcast I was kind of sticking away from Kemba Walker. He said after the first game with Toronto, following the game, his knee was sore. He felt fine, he said, but it's just soreness. It's something he said he feels great, but it's a little sore, and it's something I'm just working right through. I'll be fine. I'm not taking any time off, but that knee's been a little bothersome for him. And maybe it was the knee, or maybe it was just a bad shooting night. But he came out and shot 1 for 8 in that last game, and at 7,700, where we're looking at those other guys on the other side, Vanvleet and Lowry, I just prefer them. It's just that easy for me. It makes the decision easy and allows me to go to Tatum as well. So, what about some of these ancillary pieces, Marcus Smart and Daniel Tice? Any interest?
Yeah, I think Tice is kind of my gold star cash game play of the day, just because he got that power forward eligibility, which I'm not really sure why he got that power forward eligibility. But that just opens up so much, being able to put him at kind of a weak forward spot. And then that lets you still get to Jokic, get to Serge Ibaka, get to Zubac in the later game. It's kind of the same deal with OG. I think Tice is their guy in this series. They're gonna play him as much as as humanly possible. He's historically been a really great fantasy point per minute producer, and they just kind of need him in this series, and we're looking for anything we can just for any sort of secure minutes upside, and at 5,300, that's qualifies as value to me on this slate.
Absolutely, I'm with you. I don't mind playing some Tyson. You said it's that power forward eligibility that we get with him. I think that's going to be really important on this slate. And then I look at Marcus Smart, 6,300 is a little bit too much for me. Keep in mind this, two great defenses. These aren't going to be the highest scoring games. I don't feel like going overboard on either team is completely necessary. I think maybe going with a little bit more balanced exposure throughout all four of these teams might be my approach for the night. But not really playing Smart. We'll have some shares of Tice. So we'll move on to the final game. Let's do it, man. We have the Denver Nuggets going against the LA Clippers. 223 game total, 8.5 point spread with the Clippers being favored. We'll start off with this Denver team. Jamal Murray said it himself. I don't know if you had a chance to see it the post game when he found out that they didn't have 2 days off. Did you catch that?
Oh yeah, the face. It's like a meme on Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what?
I think every DFS player looked at that was like, "Whoa, okay,
Yeah.
let me think about that." But in all reality, I'm sure, 24-hour turnaround. They have trainers on site, ice baths. I'm sure he's gonna be fine. But now we're looking at these two guys, Jokic and Murray, only separated by $200. Tough matchup going against the Clippers. We know what their defense looks like. So I'll let you kick it off. I'll let you, dealer's choice. If you want to start with the backcourt, the front court, up to you.
Yeah, so I want to start with Jokic and Murray, and just the fact that there's even a discussion is kind of crazy to me. I get Murray was dropping 50 points in seemingly every game, but it was just fully sustained by unsustainable shooting. And we saw that last game. Once that shooting fell off, his fantasy production just completely fell off a cliff. So I'm hoping that people go back to the Murray well again here, and they kind of avoid Jokic, because Murray was almost twice as owned as Jokic was on the last slate, which is just crazy to me. I couldn't understand it whatsoever. So I guess maybe that might be a hot take, I guess, but I would play 0 Jamal Murray and all the Jokic. Any thoughts there? Is that
That's music to my ears. That's exactly how I felt, and I don't think it's a hot take whatsoever. I think, this isn't the same matchup. Mike Conley's a great defender. Don't get me wrong, but he was, the way he was working around screens, he was getting his shot, and it's like that Jamal Murray coming off around the screen kind of handoff shot from Jokic. He was getting that. He's going to have a couple guys up in his grill. And, when you look at the way to attack the Clippers, I always say the way I like to do it is in the front court, to take an advantage. And, that's perfect for Jokic in this type of matchup. I expect things to get back down to normal. By game 3, Murray will probably be like 8,200 or 81. And even at that price tag, it might be a little hard for me to play. But in 3 games versus the Clippers this season, Jokic has averaged about 28 minutes and 45 DK points. You got to expect it being playoffs. He'll probably end up playing, somewhere in the mid-30s. And all of a sudden, you talk about a guy that has a 50, 60-point ceiling again. That will be in everybody's good graces and under 10K. So I'm with you. Absolutely love Jokic on this slate.
And I think there's just so much left on the bone with Jokic. I think a lot of what happened with Denver in that Utah series was Murray was so freaking hot with his shooting that, they just kind of rode with it. They're just like, okay, Jokic gave up usage, having the offense ran through him. And I think we kind of saw it in that last game, the 80-78 barn burner, that once Murray cooled off, everything went back to going through Jokic.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, once he gets his assist rate back up and starts passing again, and just the super secure minutes floor, he played, in the last 4 games, 39, 43, 36, 39 minutes for 9,500, and just guy with probably the best triple double upside, getting that bonus on DraftKings. I mean, it's just no contest to play Jokic over Murray.
Yes, sir. I'm with you. He's my top tier, the expensive guy. Even looking on the other side of the ball, Kawhi Leonard, I still prefer Jokic over him. What about some of these ancillary guys? Your Porter Juniors, Grant, Millsap, Gary Harris is now back into this rotation. So, anybody else on Denver kind of catching your eye?
Yeah, I think the 3 guys I want to focus in on are Grant, Harris, and who's the third guy? I'm blanking.
Millsap, Porter Jr., maybe a little Monte Morris action. I don't even know if there is.
And Torrey Craig, sorry.
Okay.
I couldn't find him. So these 3 wings, I think, are going to have to play a majority of the time. We saw last series that Porter Jr., he's just not ready for the playoffs, which is fine. He hasn't had a ton of NBA experience. He just can't play defense yet. He just was exposed just constantly. It seemed that one game where it seemed like Utah went at him almost like 10 straight possessions, and he's just not ready. And going into this matchup against Kawhi and George, where perimeter defense is going to be at a premium, I don't see how they really get him matched up for very many minutes in this series. So I think my lean is to really, Torrey Craig at 3,600, Gary Harris. Hopefully, he's able to ramp up his minutes into the 30s at 4,200. Are both in strong consideration for me in cash games.
Yeah, I like the Harris call. I mean, the slight minutes increase over the last two games, 21 to 26. If he, maybe he doesn't get the 30, even if he gets to 28 at 4,200, that's not that bad of a price tag. If he's able to run out the minutes, they're going to need him. They're going to need his defense.
Yeah.
There's not too many guys that could recover and kind of change the direction like Gary Harris and seal off that little gap that you'll see on a lot of pick and rolls and be able to help out. So I love Gary Harris. He's one of my favorite like under the radar type players, not for DFS necessarily always, but just somebody that I think is a lot more valuable than people give him credit for.
Right, good real life player.
Absolutely. So at 4,200, he's not shy. He's only 2 of 13 over the last two games, but he's starting to shoot a little bit more too. So you can sign me up for a little bit of Gary, and I don't mind playing Grant either. I mean, he's basically their best defender at this point, so he's going to have to play minutes, and it's not flashy, it's not wonderful. The price tag's not fantastic. If he was like 46, 45, I'd feel a lot better about it.
Yeah.
But he's got some of those defensive stat upside. He's like a poor man's Robert Covington, but sometimes it's a lot more poor than you'd hope for. But shout out to Rocco, having a great game right now.
Oh, I haven't checked. I definitely played him tonight.
Oh yeah, I had some solid shares of Rocco. Nice. All right, man. Well, I mean, I don't mind your Torrey Craig call if you need it. If you need to go down there, and it has that both guard and forward eligibility, so it makes them easy to kind of just end your roster with if you have to. I never trust them fully to let's say build around them, but if it fits and rounds it out, why not? So we'll slide.
In certain roster builds, again, this is kind of a hedge on me thinking that I don't think Michael Porter is going to play very much, if at all. And then they just need the wing defense so much in this series. And, if it takes Gary Harris a little while to keep ramping up and, for 3,600, if you can give me 28 Torrey Craig minutes, that's, I think that's perfectly fine, to be honest.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad play.
Right.
I just don't know if I'll need to go down there in every single lineup. I think sometimes when value presents itself, and you especially a guy that's under 4K, and he's basically the only value. Sometimes you just don't need to go down there. So I don't know if I will. I'm going to probably build multiple lineups. I'm sure he's going to be in maybe one or two because I will try to go, try to get two studs in there and at least a couple of these lineups. It's going to be tough, but we'll slide over the Clippers. Kawhi Leonard, I kind of already gave my sentiments on it. I think he's a fine play. Don't get me wrong, but I still prefer Jokic. But how are you feeling?
Yeah, so kind of my initial lean going into for a build is build around Kawhi and build around Jokic, and that's kind of why I'm talking about Torrey Craig and Gary Harris to fit these guys in. I just don't know what to really say about Kawhi. He's just been an absolute monster this in the playoffs so far. I think he's probably been the best player in the playoffs, and he's just his minutes floor is so secure. He's shooting the ball really well. I think he probably gets an easier matchup than he had in the last series. I think these Denver Wings can really struggle keeping up with him. 10.3, it seems expensive for Kawhi, but I'm starting to consider, he should probably be priced close to Harden and Giannis, just in his current context and his current minutes role.
Well, it's always nice when he flashes. Like, sometimes we forget the kind of upside that Kawhi Leonard truly has. And
right.
We got to see it in that last game against Dallas where he dropped 71 DK points. And he does have that 70-point upside. We see the 50s and, just about the touching 60s almost on a consistent basis. And at that point, 10-3 is a little too cheap for a guy like that. So I prefer Kawhi over Paul George. I mean, the difference in salary at 2,100, it puts them both in play. It's all going to depend on your build. You're going to want one of these guys in most of your lineups. You don't necessarily need them, but you're going to gravitate towards wanting one of them just to have some exposure. It's just the way things generally go unless you're stacking up on the earlier game, which tends to have a little lower game total. But Paul George has been tough for me. I just still don't think something's right with his shoulder. Ever since that first game of the first series, he was icing it after that, after they dropped that first one. So ever since then, and ice on it again, ice on it again. Then I know he said he was dealing with anxiety and everything, and I'm glad he shout outs. We talked about it, that he got to get through that and talk about that. But I don't think that's just what it is. I'm still like adamant that his shoulder is bothering him. But 8,200 is still a fair price tag for him. But let's talk about some of these bench pieces. Lou Williams and Montrez Harrell, both these guys. You have any interest in either one of them?
I'm just out on Montrez. I don't think they can play him right now. Zubac got up to 33 minutes in the last game, and he's just looked so bad just throughout the whole playoffs, and not really to any fault of his own. He's been out of basketball for 5 months, and trying to get up to speed in the playoffs, the NBA playoffs, for goodness sake. But 4,400 is cheap. It's a good tag for him, but I think Zubac is the direction I want to go in. He got up to 33 minutes in the last game. Seems like Doc is slowly starting to figure out that he kind of has to play Zubac as kind of the anchor of their defense. He's done a really good job as the anchor of their defense. And I just think Jokic would tear up Harrell in this series. So that's just not a viable matchup to me. And at 4,800, if Zubac's getting 28, 30 minutes at that price tag, it's kind of the same thing we've talked about with OG and Tice. If we can lock in this minutes floor, 4,800 is kind of what value is these days.
Right.
Yeah.
No, you're right. I mean, in playoffs, and I think I was explaining this to one of our listeners, and it's you got to view every slate as a whole. No slate is the same. We got to throw out everything that we're used to from regular season on what we consider value. It's all value relative to what we have available on the slate. Montrez, Harrell, Zubac, I think both these guys are very much in play. Zubac obviously probably making more sense for cash, but Harrell I still think it's an excellent tournament play. Eventually, we know what he could do, and it's all about the rebounds and how aggressive he's going to be, how his conditioning's feeling. He's actually crushed the Nuggets this season. In 2 games, he's averaged 25 minutes and 42 DK points. So he's had no problem getting his against them. Some of that was in garbage time, I believe, in one of those games. But, I still know that tournament appeal is there for me, and everybody else is watching those game logs. And, you get him on a low-owned night, and he smashes. He gets you at 4,400. We really need 25, 30. He has 40-point upside. If we get 40 out of a guy that's 4,400, you're going to need him to take down any sort of GPP or slate in general. So I do have interest in both of these guys, and even a little bit of Lou Williams. Not a whole lot. I know he's played well in this matchup as well. I think he's averaging about 38 DK points against him. But 6,200. I'm probably just looking at some of those other guards who are 7K, and I know I want to play one of those Toronto guards. I know I want to play Jokic. I want to play a little bit of Tatum in some lineups. And, once we start getting up there, you got slim pickings. It's hard to get another guy that's like 6,200 in there. So we're going to have to figure that out and, mix and match a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I think him and Marcus Smart just kind of, if they were, 55, 5,600, then yeah, they're in play. But they're kind of in that no man's land pricing where, we want to be up paying for Kawhi, paying for Jokic, paying for those 7K plays, and then going down to the Tice, the Zubac, the OG Anunoby, Jeremy Grant tier. And there's not a whole lot of room to fit kind of these 6K guys.
Yeah, and he's been being a little limited over the past 2 games. Doesn't mean he's like completely eliminated from tournaments for me just because guys struggling 2 games. We know Lou Williams upside, but I also forgot to mention right at the top of this that Patrick Beverley, he's questionable coming in. But Doc Rivers came out and said that the way things are looking, he's expected to make his return. So probably going to be extremely limited, 15, 20 minutes or so, but it's another guard. It's another point guard where minutes are going to come away from other people, probably mostly cut into a little bit of Reggie Jackson. But it's another reason why we can just not worry about Murray as much, especially with that price tag. Is if Patrick Beverley's even on for 10 minutes, that's super annoying. Nobody wants to deal with that. But I don't know if it completely removes Reggie Jackson, though.
Yeah, I wanted to ask. I was looking pretty heavily at Shemet as well. Um, if Beverly, I don't know if Beverly back really kills Shemet. I think they kind of really like what the spacing he's given them since he's entered the rotation 4 games ago. 3,800. It's if we're trying to get all these expensive spends in, and he does have point guard, small forward eligibility, which is super nice.
I'm going to throw a
I don't
curveball
have
at
a
you.
ton of interest in Reggie Jackson, but curious to hear your thoughts on Shemet.
I want to ask you, who do you like more than Shemet or Torrey Craig? Both have that guard and forward eligibility, very similar price tags. So if you had to lean one way or the other, which way would you lean?
I think I would play Shemet. Just more offensive upside. And again, I think they really like the spacing he's been providing them, and yeah, I think just more of an offensive player. Where Craig, you're just more or less hoping he falls into 2 blocks, a steal, and scores 8 points to kind of get to value.
All right. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't mind looking at him. I wouldn't, I don't know if I would trust him in cash games. I am a little bit worried with Beverly coming back that, that's kind of I think I still prefer Reggie Jackson over him. I think that's the way I'm leaning, even,
Okay.
regardless. I think that, I want the guy that's going to have some of that bench usage. Um, Shemet, it's tough. I don't even think he's going to get 37. I'd probably peg him more towards the high 20s. Still sharing a lot of usage. Not going to completely rule him out, but I think I prefer Reggie Jackson. I think with Beverly back, a lot of people will hop off of him very quickly. But we've seen this guy just get stupid aggressive from time to time, where he's not afraid to take 3, 4, 5 shots in a row, regardless of whether he makes them or misses them. So, not really probably in love with either or though. I don't know. I'm not trying to sit here on a soapbox and play Reggie Jackson either.
Right.
But if you need the value, which probably won't, and if you do, you're probably gonna be looking for it at a different position. He's definitely there for you. And I think that's pretty much it. Other than Marcus Morris, that's the only other guy that we really haven't touched on. And as a Mavs fan, I won't say too much. I don't have any bias towards anything like that in DFS. I think that's absolutely ridiculous, especially in season-long leagues where people, I don't like that guy. Or I think it was in baseball leagues this season. People were like, I'm not drafting Astros, and I'm sitting there like, okay, I'll
Right.
take some
Gotta
Astros
separate
to
it.
fall. Yeah, man, he can't. One makes his money, the other one doesn't. So. Should be seeing minutes back in the 30s. It's a solid matchup for him. I don't mind taking a look at him at 5,400. Very similar price to OG. So I was going to throw you that one too. If you OG or Morris, which guy would you be more leaning towards?
I think it's definitely close. I think I want OG though. His minutes ceiling is just too good in this spot. They have to have him on the floor. They need his defense on Tatum, on Jaylen Brown. Whereas I think Morris's minutes are just definitely quite a bit more volatile in this spot where I could see a situation where OG has 10 more minutes than Morris. Both good plays. I'd probably lean Morris in tournaments just because of that volatility of his style of play, and if he gets 20, he can easily get 20 real life points. Yeah, I think we'd lead OG in cash, Morris in tournaments.
I don't mind. 54. I think I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I think OG has a nice safe floor. I'm kind of leaning more towards Morris though at the same time. So I'm gonna plant my flag on Morris over OG. I'm gonna take the opposite stance of you, and I don't think there's a right or
Okay.
wrong answer. I just going. I don't even know if it's going against the grain. I think it's really again one of those situations where you're splitting hairs. They got both these guys
Right.
priced extremely appropriately, and the more I think about it in this matchup, it's gonna, this first game is gonna be indicative for the series. We saw a guy like on the other side of this, like Paul Millsap, be extremely limited against the Jazz, but him and we might even see a little bit more Millsap depending on how many minutes they decide to play Morris. It's got me thinking about that side of the ball. I hate to switch back over to Denver real fast, but at 4,300. they're going to want to use Jeremy Grant, I think, maybe I'm wrong, as much as they could on a guy like Kawhi or George, on one of those two guys. They're
No,
going to
for
want
sure.
to. So if that's the case, they don't necessarily have that other guy that they could throw in the front court to go against your Morris. Maybe if they might even run a little Harrell alongside Zubac for 2 or 3 minutes. And Millsap might be that guy. I mean, he's been playing terrible. He's basically in the same breath as a guy like, Marcus Gasol, but 4,300 is a great price tag for a guy that, could get you 25 to 35 in a tournament. So I didn't want to flop back and forth, but the more I started thinking about Morris, the more I'm starting to think about, it's still not that ideal matchup for Millsap, but it's definitely a better one considering, they play a little bit bigger than the Jazz do.
Well, yeah, that kind of goes along with my theory that I think that Grant, Craig, and Harris are basically going to have to play all the 2 and the 3 minutes, defending Paul George and Kawhi for, 480 combined minutes of the game. So that it doesn't leave a whole lot of room for Grant to slide down to the 4 in this series. So yeah, that's a great call. I think, Millsap very likely could get back, back into the mid-20s, mid-20s in minutes, and at 4,300, that's a pretty good value.
It's a lot of risk associated with it, and that's why I say just tournaments. It's not a guy that you're gonna make a foundational value piece all around, but he's there if you need him. Why not? I guess there's worse options. When we're talking about guys, not to knock on Torrey Craig again, but when you just look at like raw upside, I'd probably give the edge to Millsap if you're talking about guys' ceilings. Yeah. The floor is probably going to go towards Craig just the way that they've all been playing, but he still has some of that 30-point upside in him. So, all right, buddy. I think that is everything we have right here. So before we take off, guys, if you have a quick moment, we'd really appreciate it if you guys go and give us a nice rate review. iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, wherever you're listening. It means a lot to us. It allows us to keep producing some wonderful free content for you guys. Keep stuff in front of the paywall. That's the way I like it. So give us a nice thumbs up, rate, and review. Our sponsors really appreciate that good stuff. And then give us a follow on Twitter. You can find me at Mike Apotria, MikeApotria. And you can find Aaron. Tell him, Aaron, where you can find him. Good people.
Yeah, I'm at Asmus Sports, ASMUSSPORTS.
Absolutely. And if you're not following Aaron already, you are missing out. Please do bother him with your questions. That's why we are here. And I've been getting more DMs lately, DM requests, just people saying kind things, and I really appreciate it. Seeing that kind of stuff.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, man, it's a wonderful feeling, and shout out. I don't even want to misspeak, but Tammy, she said she's a loyal listener, and she gave you a nice little compliment too in there, and said that she loves listening to us both together. So it's nice, and I wanted to share that with you, Aaron, on air, because I know you're relatively new to this, man, and when you get to help people out and you get some reciprocation and some love back, it's kind of the reason why you like to do this stuff, man. It's a great feeling. So thank you guys. Continue doing that. We love to see it. It's a wonderful thing, and great stuff.
Cool, man. Let's get it.
Let's get it. So thank you guys for listening. We'll be back tomorrow. I will be on with my main man. Oh, yeah, I'll be on with Brenton. No, I won't be on Brenton. I'm so terrible at the schedule. I think Santino's on. God, who knows? Maybe I'm doing a show
every week, man. Every week.
I gotta get this down, man. I you know what? It's a mind in a million places, but there will be a show, people. That's all that matters. So we'll be back tomorrow, guys. Thank you for listening. From everybody over here at Hoop Ball and DFS today, have a great Thursday, and let's take down a GPP.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.